Reese,
Good morning.
how's my sound? I'm getting a lot of static.
You sound fine.
Okay, so maybe it's just my headphones. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, good morning. It's 9:30. We can get started, Liz.
Good morning. My name is Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm going to read the preamble for you this morning, this November 7th, 2022. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the city planning department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We've provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak on a particular matter have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, call the roll, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Roca will be absent this morning. So we have Ms. Brown. Present. Ms. Holzer.
Present.
Ms. Tate.
Present.
Ms. Britt.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum with 4.
All right, thank you. Just so you all know, with 4, it can be a split vote, 2-2, and that means your case won't go anywhere. So if you want to postpone your case until we have a full complement, you can do so when we call your case. Okay, go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have one postponement request that we received late last week. It is for the last calendar number. I'm sorry, not the last one. It's the second to last. So it's 22-146 regarding 1242 West 65th Street. Jason Nehez proposes to install front yard deck and front yard wooden fence in a 2-family residential district. If you remember, this was postponed from September 26 to allow time for the appellant to meet with design review and to update his drawings. We received an email stating that he has not completed those drawings yet. Madam Chair, if you please, we should probably push this out maybe towards the end of December to give him a little extra time, since it seems like it is taking time for him to go back and forth with the HDRS.
Yeah, I mean, we only have 2 hearings in December, right?
At this point, yes. So the date would be December 12th.
Okay. Put them on that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And that's all that we have for postponements and withdrawals.
All right. Maurice, any council people on?
Yes. Good. First of all, welcome back and good morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have looks like Councilman Hairston. So I will zoom to that case, which I believe is this one here.
All right. I will start off with calendar number 22-79. This is at 7114 St. Clair. Eric Gregory, owner, and Chanel Clemens want an expansion of use as bar and restaurant to second floor and basement in a C1 local retail business zoning district. The owners appeal for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland codified ordinances as stated in the public record and the agenda, of which there is one. This case was first postponed on July 11th to allow time for the appellant to seek purchase of a nearby land bank lot and submit updated drawings. A second postponement was made at the request of the board to allow time for the appellants to meet with the councilman. And then a third postponement from October 10th was made to allow time for the appellant to meet with building and housing. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do, Your Honor. My name is Jimmy Mack. My address is Post Office Box 391056, Solon, Ohio, and I represent Mr. Gregory and the Chanel Clemens.
Thank you. Councilman, would you like to swear in?
Absolutely. Good morning. Councilman Anthony Harrison, Ward 10, 601 Lakeside. I do.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for this case?
Your Honor, Madam Chairperson, I see Mr. Gregory, Eric Gregory is also there, and I know I need him to speak up and affirm as well. I know he's there, so I don't know why he's
I'm
not
present as
speaking.
well, Mrs. Clemens. Chanel
Oh,
Clemens.
okay.
Yes.
Ma'am, I need you to state that, say I do, state your name and address, please, both of you.
I do. Chanel Clemens, 59 Santon Circle, Bedford, Ohio, 44146.
Thank you. Sir?
Madam Chair, if I could remind appellants to press *6 to unmute themselves if they are on a phone.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Thank you. We already had the history. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the parking regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Mack, tell us what's going on. Did you get a chance to meet with Building and Housing?
Madam Chair, we did. We went down to the Board of Zoning. We made sure that the diagrams or the blueprints were present. They were given at the last meeting. They were given at the last moment, and they did not have a chance to review them. So I'm sure that they have been reviewed since our last meeting in October. I think Madam Chair, the only thing that's left over is because the pictures that are now before show that they do have the additional 20 parking spots that are necessary. We do know that the parking lot is owned by Mr. Gregory, who is the husband of Chanel Clemens. And also, he is the landlord there at 7114 St. Clair Avenue. So both properties are under Mr. Eric Gregory. I think we have met the standards, and I do believe that this time, Your Honor, excuse me, Madam Chair, that we should be able to go ahead with a vote on this. This is, like I say, the third time that we come for this.
Liz, what's the word on this?
So, Madam Chair, when the appellant visited us here at the Board of Zoning Appeals, he explained that the ownership of the parking lot was in the appellant's name. However, we found that it is in an LLC, and I advised the appellant to transfer that into his property. I think we spoke about this at the last hearing. If not, we did confer with Building and Housing. They stated that if the ownership of this particular parking lot is in the same name as the appellant, then a variance would not be needed because it's within 400 feet. It was my understanding that the appellant was going to transfer this parking lot into the same name as the parcel in question. And then it was going to be submitted to Building and Housing to determine whether or not this parking lot is code conforming. Again, these are two separate parcels, and we, it is of course up to the board, but we cannot confirm whether or not this is what the zoning issues would be on this parking lot. That would be up to Building and Housing. I did advise Mr. Mack to take these drawings over to Building and Housing. We haven't seen anything back from them.
If we had not heard back from Building and Housing, we can't hear this case yet. I thought that would have been settled. That's what we asked you to do, was to take these to Building and Housing so that they could review. So if it was the same owner, you wouldn't have to come back here because you would meet the parking requirement. So we're back in the same place we were back in October.
Yes. Yeah, Your Honor, we did make arrangements, and I don't mean to call Liz by her first name, last name, but Liz, I thought we sent those, after you got the blueprints, you took them back to the person in building and standards and transferred so that they could be reviewed.
Was that my understanding, Madam Chair, that the appellant was going to take them over to Building and Housing? I did not take them to Building and Housing.
Madam Chair, because we went down to 514 at City Hall, and again, I don't want to go back and forth because you have so many people on the docket. But that was my understanding, because the gentleman, I don't know the other gentleman who is there, who looks at the blueprint, Your Honor. He did not have the blueprints, but I understand that Liz had them in the system, and before we left, she had forwarded them to him for his review. That was my understanding. And so that's where I'm at. That's why I'm kind of confused as well. Thank you.
Okay, well, apparently either they haven't gotten it, or if they did, they haven't reviewed it yet. So we still can't hear this case until that has happened.
Oh, okay. All right, Your Honor. I do understand that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Liz, can we get another date, please? And this will be the last time. I'm not going to postpone this case again. So please have everything in order. And if everything is ordered, you probably won't have to come back here. So, because you will meet the parking requirement, but that's for Building and Housing to determine.
Your Honor, may I make one last statement? I wish the board a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, and I'll see you in December.
Madam Chair, Maurice Rose, I see that the councilman has his hand raised.
Councilman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Planning Commission. I respect this board wholeheartedly and support you all in your decisions. However, as you indicated, we've been back here on several occasions. Yeah. Last time we met here, it was clear on what the applicant was supposed to do. And so now you see what I've had to deal with over my times in working with these applicants as well. What I'm asking and the community's asking is whether the board would consider, making a decision today. And that decision is no, because they failed to do what they were required. They were told to do explicitly at the last meeting, not for Liz to submit the plans. That was not the comments that were made. The comments were made for them to submit their plans and show that they were submitted and communicate with the Building and Housing Department. So I personally, along with the community, would ask that the board to deny this request today and move so we can move on. I mean, this is ridiculous that we have to keep coming back here. So I agree with you that, postponing this, should be the last time, but will respectfully and support whatever decision that you all make, that this request be denied.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank
Yeah, I made my decision. I'm gonna give them time to try to get this together. If they don't have it together, as I said, by the next hearing, we'll just proceed as if they don't have it. So I said we'll give them a postponement this last time, but that's it. I'm not doing it after that.
Madam Chair, we also have Rick Riccardi. I don't know if he wanted to add something with his hand raised.
Oh, Mr. Riccardi?
I just wanted to ask, because I wasn't clear, is the appellant stating that they did transfer the supposed off-site parking into the same title ownership as the facility, or has that not been done yet?
I don't think any of that's been done.
Yeah, Madam Chair, that has not been done, but we will take care of that, and we will certainly have the documents by your next meeting. Thank you.
Liz, what's the date we can give them?
Okay, so Madam Chair, one more thought on that. If they
Yes.
were to apply to Building and Housing with that documentation, they wouldn't need a variance. Is that correct, Mr. Riccardi? If they have the 20 spaces that they need.
This is Rick Riccardi. It seems that's the case that they're making. And I mean, if you have off-site parking, and it's a legal parking lot and it's within 400 feet, then you don't need a variance if it's in the same title ownership. Of course, we don't know any of that at this point. So
Right. That's why I'm just putting it on the docket. But if that's the case, then we won't have to come back. So.
Yeah, it's possible.
But if I see them back, then we know there's an issue.
Okay, December 5th, if that would be all right with you. We could do December 12th if you wanted to push it out further. November 28th would be tight.
Nope.
But,
Nope.
December.
Okay. December 5th, then,
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Matt, get on that right now because it's November 7th. So you need to have time to get it to Building and Housing and they can review it and have enough time to review it. So if you can get down there tomorrow, do it then.
Thank you, Madam Chair, again. And December the 5th. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. All right, next case.
All right, our next case is calendar number 22-185. This is at 1319 East 66th Street. Terry Gardner proposes to establish use as residential facility for 10 occupants in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the public record and the agenda, of which there are 2. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
Do I do that? Do I do that?
Anyone testifying on this case?
Yes, my name is Christina Hermides, and I am next door to Terry Gardner. It's an empty lot with a driveway. The address is 1311 East 66. We're neighbors. I own the property. And my concern is all over the years been garbage.
Ma'am,
I've been
Miss,
picking up.
ma'am, you're just swearing in right now. We're not taking testimony. We're just swearing you in. So say, I do with your name and your address.
My name is Christina Hermides, and the address is 1311 East 66.
Thank you. Is Mr. Gardner on the call?
Yes, I am.
Please swear in.
Yes, my name is Terry Gardner. My address is 38320 Tamarack Boulevard, Winter, Ohio, 44094.
Thank you, sir.
Also, my name is Jaquela Lattimore, and I am also a party on this case.
Your address and please swear in.
My address is 19606 Pawnee, Cleveland, 44119, and I do.
Thank you, ma'am.
I do, Khalid Hawthorne, the Miko's Foundation.
And the address, please.
1325 Ansel Road.
Thank you.
Should I tell him? Should I tell him, Charlie? You have to learn not to tell us. You should comment.
Is there anyone else who's trying to swear in to give testimony?
I made a mistake. My address is 1075 East 64th.
Okay, thank you for correcting the record. No problem. Thank you, ma'am. Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I think the most pertinent information here is that in calendar number 20-007, this board granted a variance to establish use as a state licensed residential facility for 8 to 12 residents in a B1-2 family residential district. And the comments in this resolution stated that the appellant stated that the facility will be a residential facility and used as a training facility as well. He will employ 4 staff members and 24-hour security will be provided. Shannon Leonard from City Planning stated that the property is adjacent to a multifamily residential district where this use would be permitted by rights. She stated also that there are no others within 1,000 feet, therefore no risk of oversaturation. A board member asked for a copy of the appellant's business plan at that time, and he submitted such. So there are no conditions that were placed upon this variance, Madam Chair, and the status in our system states that it is, well, it's been acknowledged here in this office, but the status for the building and housing permit states that it's closed and non-compliant. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Mr. Riccardi maybe could speak to that, but that is the status of the variance that was granted in 2020.
And what was that case number again?
20-007, and the date was February 24th, 2020.
Not ringing a bell. Okay, I thought that would help. All right, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance from the regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, who's gonna be the spokesperson for this case?
Ms. Lattimore.
Okay, Ms.
Can I-
Lattimore, tell us what you like to, first, before we start that, Liz, what name was this facility under the last time we approved it? Do we have that?
Yeah, give me one moment. It was the same owner, Terry Gardner.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Ms. Lattimore.
Okay, so originally, back in 2020, the plan was to move forward with the residential, but it still was the goal was the trauma informed residential facility. However, I had caught COVID really bad, so we couldn't move forward. And at that particular moment, no kids that was in transition or in foster homes or in any out of home placement were able to move. So we really couldn't move forward with that part of it in 2020. However, I revamped a lot of the programming, so which now the house will be, the state consider it as a group home because it's less than 15 people. So on the state side is my worker state said that it'll be considered a group home. So it's going to be a trauma informed group home for ages 10 to 18. And what we would do in that home, it would, first of all, let me start with, it would be 24-hour care all around the clock. It would be 2 shifts. The girls would be left alone at no time. Any kid that would be in that home, they would be in school during the day. We would make sure that they are in school if they're not already enrolled. I plan to do trauma-informed group every week and also assign mentors to these young girls. The goal is to keep them in the community. I actually did work for Cuyahoga County Children Family Services, so I do see the greater need of keeping these kids in the inner city than outskirting them into these other areas where they're not prevailing. They keep disrupting their placement. So I figured if we can do a group home and accommodate them and in their needs within the community, we'll have a better successful rate.
Okay, so tell us, so it'll be 24/7 care for, are you saying these are just girls?
Yes, just girls.
Okay. For girls that are 10 to 18, you'll supply therapy. Is there any reason, or if it is, would you administer medication or any of that sort, or?
Yes, so some of the girls, so in the Cuyahoga County Children Family Services, we label them as different levels. So this facility will only take levels from 1 to 4. So what happens in levels 3 and 4, they are medication, and some of them, or they will have to take medication. All of my staff will be medication certified, CPR certified, and CPI certified. I am also an MSW, LSW. So I also have the qualifications to, to do the group and all the assessments as well.
Okay, thank you. And Liz, can you just read back what we agreed to the last time, what the conditions were?
Madam Chair, in 2020, the appellant stated the facility will be a residential facility and a training facility. There would be 4 staff members and a 24-hour security would be provided. And there was a business plan that was required to be submitted. I do have that, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if you would want me to read bullet points on that, but it sounds like it's different in that there would not be that training facility component.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to see what the difference was. Okay, thank you. Hey, Ms. Lattimore, anything else you want to add about the operations of this?
Yes, the girls will also receive training, but they will be in the community receiving training. My older girls that would be like 16 to 18, we gonna try to link in the community with the providers that's already in the community.
All right, so you'll send them out for training versus doing it in-house.
With some of the training, we will, like some of the training we can get in-house, like the different trainers that we can get in the house. I would prefer to get in the home, but it's different criteria that they have to have training.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gardner, is anything you want to add here?
Yes, it is. in 2020, situation came, it kind of like knocked everything backwards for us. But this is the facility we've been continuously working on for a couple of years now. We renovated most of the building to meet up with the requirements of the state. And Ms. Lattimore's supervision, I do believe that it will be a great project and a great situation for that community. She's been doing it with the social work of the city of Cleveland for quite some time now. And like I said, once again, I do believe that under her supervision, these young ladies, it would be a plus for the city of Cleveland. I know we've had several, as it was a residential facility with being an apartment building. I know that the one neighbor that is has joined in with the meeting, I know she's had difficulties with some of the neighbors. And this is something going to be totally different. I spoke with the neighbor, Christina, last week and tried to explain to her that, you know, this would be something totally different. It'd be supervision of 24 hours. And Ms. Lattimore has dedicated herself to making sure that this would be something that would be great for the area down there. And my part would be to just make sure that everything is maintained within that facility, to make sure that everything that Ms. Lattimore needs and the city needs to be sufficed, that I will do so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Armides, go ahead. Christina, go ahead and speak.
You're muted. You might want to try to unmute yourself.
Yes, good morning. I've
morning.
been there for 16 years, and well, I've had issues with Terry Gardner. My concern is I've always had garbage on my property, and we never had a good communication. I would love to have a good communication for the neighborhood to revitalize it, to make it
Ma'am,
nice.
where's your property in relation to this property?
I have a property next to Terry Gardner. It's 1311 East 66. I'm right adjacent to him, north. And it's an empty lot and a driveway. I've been keeping it very clean. I put flowers. Anyways, I've had a lot of people over the years parking there. So I finally put some posts there. So nobody, my concern is hanging out on my lot, garbage. I mean, I have nothing against Harry. He's great, but he's a little bit irresponsible, not answering to my calls. I am a neighbor. I'm a very friendly neighbor. I'll do anything to make things nice, but all I had is not very happy about it. So my concern is just garbage, people hanging around. There's no parking on the street. So it is my concern. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gardner, you want to address that?
Yes, as I said, the other day I spoke with Miss Christina, and I advised her that, she spoke before about the tenants that are in the lot, and, we couldn't be there 24 hours to supervise the tenants in the past, but this is a different situation right here moving forward. As Ms. Lattimore said, it would be young ladies that would be there under 24-hour care. As I also spoke with Miss Christina, I offered her that I would actually clean up the lot if need be, whenever that time came along. And so we're moving forward to make things happen so that we could actually have communication. I transferred my number to her husband the other day, so that, if anything was to happen, that he could give me a call directly and let me know. But as I said, Ms. Lattimore is very responsible. So within the action that she's attempting to do, I don't believe what Ms. Christina has had done in the past will be something we have to worry about in the future.
Okay, thank you.
May I speak with that? Miss Christina, you won't have to worry about anyone hanging out, because that affects my license. And so I'm not going to do anything that jeopardizes my license. I will make sure that no one is in your area. I will respect your property, and I'm gonna do my best to make sure that no paper is on your property. However, I know that my girls won't be doing that, because a part of this program is making sure they maintain responsibility and just teaching them the basics of respecting other people's property and themselves.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hawthorne.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chairwoman. Excuse me. Yeah, so I did get a call from one, I think Mr. Keller, Miss Lattimore. It was not a, I think that was later on last week, but would like to speak with them about this in more detail. The have questions around the just the operations of it, and it's a vulnerable, definitely a vulnerable tenant base, user, and trying to figure out. Yes, it's 24/7 on site, but it's that are these how does that work? School truants, possible truancy, things of that nature, and monitoring of these children. Like to have more information around that.
So a lot of the girls will be, we can speak further, but just to touch on, a lot of the girls will be already in county custody. So therefore, their worker will be on top of the children being truant. However, we will provide transportation to the kids, for the kids, to make sure they are back and forth to school. And a part of being a kid in foster care or awarded to a county, they have to provide a transportation for that child if they are displaced from out of their home. But we can speak further.
Yeah, and just I mean, it's lots of questions, so we'd like to talk to you about that.
No problem.
Okay, do you all have each other's contact information?
She has my. I think I have her phone number, which I won't say on here, but
Yeah. Okay, as long as someone has some
Yes, I have his
information
number.
contact.
yeah.
Okay, great. All right. I will open it up to the board for any questions or comments.
Madam Chair, just to refresh my memory on this, because like you, I'm this didn't come quickly to mind. Which this looks like it's a side by side. So which side is the facility going to occupy?
I think it's a four-suiter, actually. I don't
Is it
know.
a four-suiter? Is that what it is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Yeah. All right. That's the only thing I wanted to refresh my memory on. So.
Yeah, I didn't hear any other questions. Oh,
Yes, Madam Chair, I do have one other
Okay.
question. And thank you for the drawing that shows the number of bedrooms and baths. But clearly the state is in charge of making sure it's compliant with their rules.
right.
I'm interested in knowing if there is parking in the rear for the staff, that would prevent people from parking on the side yard, and if there's play area for the children.
No, there's
It's street area in the back. I mean, it's street parking. However, there are, we can build, the goal is that Mr. Gardner and myself, we've talked about putting some
There's no-
swing stuff in the backyard for the kids to go out and, have something to do in the summer.
parking. There's no parking.
There's street parking.
The street
There's
parking.
there's no parking.
And we have street parking, that's allowed by the
Yeah.
city of Cleveland.
You have street
and as
parking.
it- Yeah, we have street parking.
It's gonna
If
affect.
I was to go back 20 something years ago when I purchased this property, The owner and I, it was a shared driveway. I guess when Miss Christina came and took over, I guess she
Was
took care. She
there
took
was a
care.
gate there? There was a
Dana,
gate there.
you can't talk unless you're called upon, okay?
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
All right, go ahead,
Um,
Mr. Gardner.
As I said, when I purchased this property in 1996, there was another building right next to it. And me and the owner of that property, it was a shared driveway. When Miss Christina purchased it, I didn't go into any deep detail with it. She said that the driveway was hers, so I let it be. But we do have an area in the backyard in which that, as Ms. Lattimore said, our goal is to take that backyard and put, a deck area back there for the kids, for the young ladies. We're actually in the process right now of getting the trees cut down that's back there, and we'll be building a deck so that they will have some outside area where they can communicate and things of that matter. I also told Miss Krina, if it was a problem with her, I would actually put a gate up to block, that area off so that it wouldn't have any effect on her property. So I've been talking to her. I've been telling her that, what we could do to make this work for her as our neighbor and something good for the neighborhood also.
Okay, thank you. And so, Ms. Lattimore, since you'll be parking on the street, how many employees, like at one time, will be here?
It would be a total of like 3, including myself.
Okay, so 4 extra cars on the street. Okay. All right, board, any other questions or concerns?
Just quickly, Madam Chair, I was thinking about the case that we had in Old Brooklyn where it was a residential facility and we were trying to be consistent in the meetings that we wanted the appellant to have. And so are we saying that we're hoping the appellant will meet with Famicos and the council member, or is it Famicos or CDC or council member or both?
Yeah, I think they should definitely meet with Famicos. Mr. Hawthorne said that he had, some questions that he wanted answered. The only reason why I was leaning toward not making it a condition now is because we did approve something similar in 2020. So this is not like a new situation for us. However, as a board member, you can also bring up, whatever concerns you would like. So.
I think that I'm comfortable with it just being a meeting with Famicos, but just wanted to make sure that there was consistency. So I couldn't remember what the result was of that case in Old Brooklyn. So
yeah, don't ask me to remember right now either.
yeah.
Ms. Hulsar, are you asking that be a condition or just in good faith?
I'm not asking for it to be a condition. Just
Okay.
curious if we wanted that as well, but I am okay. Personally, I'm okay with it just being a meeting with Famicos.
All right.
I support that without condition.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Yeah.
If there are no other comments, Madam Chair, I'll move to a motion.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, calendar number 22-185. As stated, this case was already before us in 2020, and the variance was granted at that point. We had, as Ms. Kukla stated, a business plan was submitted, and also it was understood that Ms. Lattimore was well credentialed to handle this type of situation and in care facility. We know that these are going to be girls only, age 10 to 18. They are, as Ms. Lattimore stated, level 1 through 4. Levels 3 and 4 require medication, and her staff will be certified in the necessary certifications to be able to do that. Therapy is going to be provided, and it will operate 24/7. There's been conversation between Mr. Gardner and Ms. Ermides. I think that Mr. Gardner and Ms. Lattimore are going to do their very best to be good neighbors and ensure that Ms. Armides is satisfied with the maintenance and security of her lot so that there's no encroachment. We're also suggesting that Ms. Lattimore and Mr. Gardner meet with FAMICOS, which is the CDC for the area, and Mr. Hawthorne is present today and is open to having conversations with them. So with all that being said, Madam Chair, I move that we approve calendar number 22-185.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Member Brown, I second.
Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Olter,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Big,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar 22-185 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and after that, we will send the appellant a letter.
All right, thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys so much. We appreciate you.
All right, moving on.
Moving on.
All right, calendar number 22-187. This is at 10502 Superior Avenue. FAMICOS Foundation owner proposes to erect a 4-story mixed-use residential and medical clinic on first floor, 71-unit multifamily apartment building in a G2 local retail business district and an urban form overlay district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the public record and the agenda, of which there are 3. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
My name is Greg Soltis from RDL Architects. My address is 16102 Chagrin Boulevard, Shaker Heights, Ohio 44120. I do.
I do. Khalid Hawthorne from FAMICOS Foundation, 1325 Ansel Road.
Anyone else for this case? Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned general retail in 1929. In 2018, it was changed to the current local retail business and urban form overlay district. Madam Chair, I think the most pertinent information is that in 1900, a permit was issued to erect a stores and apartment building, as well as an office building. And then in 1974, the stores and apartment building was demolished. And then in 2020, the office building was demolished. And that's all that I have for you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the maximum setback, frontage build-out, and transparent windows and doors regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Soltis. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. In the purpose of this project, and this project really came out of a planning exercise that we did with FAMICOS in 2016 and 17, is to kind of reinstate a healthy pedestrian-oriented urban environment with a nice mix of uses. And so in doing that and in looking at things in more detail, and if you go to the next slide, so these are the three variances we're looking for: deeper setback, a lower percentage of the glazing, and then no building frontage along Churchill Avenue in the first phase. Next slide. So, and again, this just shows the plan that we did with FAMICOS that shows, filling in the missing teeth and really trying to create a more pedestrian-oriented environment. And this intersection is really seen as the core of the neighborhood, as kind of almost like its neighborhood downtown. And so that leads to why we would like to have a little bit more setback allowance. Next slide. So when we looked at the sidewalk, you know, the pedestrian through zone, like a sidewalk has 4 parts typically when you're designing one. You know, the curb and amenity zone, which is at the very edge, a pedestrian through zone that allows, you know, space for people to walk, and then there's a frontage zone. So the current sidewalk, as you can see in this image, has a very small curb amenity zone of 3'6", although it's doable. The pedestrian through zone is only 5'6". You know, if you're designing a neighborhood downtown, you really want 8 feet, and that's most of us are anywhere from 16 to 24 inches wide. You know, 8 feet allows, you know, 4 people to really walk a sidewalk and pass each other comfortably. There really is no area for a frontage zone currently because where you see that 5'6" pedestrian through zone where the grass starts, that's the property line. And East 105th Street is a very narrow street for a typical, you know, what's considered a main street in our city. You can also see in the current conditions that there's a transformer like that literally blocks the pedestrian through zone, and then the bus stop is set off the sidewalk because there's just not a lot of space there. Next slide. This is the situation on Superior Avenue. There is more room on Superior Avenue. It's about 15 feet to the property line. The poles are kind of in the way of the pedestrian through zone, so we would like to adjust this a little bit as well. Next slide. So these are the 4 zones of the sidewalk, and what we were going to focus on is the frontage zone because it's super important. But again, like I mentioned before, a pedestrian throw zone needs to be wide enough depending on what type of street it is. And since this is intended to be a downtown neighborhood street, we'd like to have a minimum of, you know, 8 feet to kind of work with. The curb zone is super important. That's where the street furniture, lights, street trees go, and that offers a nice buffer between the street and the sidewalk. Normally there would be this enhancement / buffer zone along the very edge, which could have bike lanes or on-street parking and pedestrian bump outs. That's not part of this project. We have to actually work around that. Maybe someday when the street is replanned and redone altogether, that will be incorporated. So these other 3 zones become really important. Next slide. This is the site plan. So you can see where the red line is, that's the property line. And the reason that we wanted to set back from the street is we want to create a wider sidewalk that allows for more comfortable pedestrian conditions on the sidewalk. And then we want to knit the building and the interior spaces of the building to the public space by creating these frontage zones. And if you go to the next slide, you can see 4 typical types of frontage zones we've created. The yellow show an entry sort of zone where there's a canopy that comes out over an entry and marks that as an entry. The green are these forecourts where you have building areas that pop out on either side of the forecourt, and it's a little space for like a greenery and seating. The orange is a community terrace, which allows for this space for people to gather from an amenity space, a common amenity room in the building, and make that nice connection to the sidewalk. And then the blue are stoops. So the ground floor units will kind of function as brownstones and have stoops and little courtyards in front of them to create a really comfortable space between the interior and the public sidewalk. Next slide. And really, when you're creating proper frontage relationships, there's 5 components you have to think about: the interior use and the treatment of that use, the first floor elevation from the sidewalk, the frontage type, and the 4 that we listed above are 4 that you can use, and then the sidewalk zones, and then the amount of glazing. Next slide. So in this is the residential amenity room and terrace that's on the corner, and you can see in the section through the building and the sidewalk on the left that we've used the amenity space for trees, created a wider sidewalk, and then used the frontage zone to create this community terrace that allows the interior of the building to spill out onto that terrace, and then a nice seating ledge with a buffer zone there. And then you can see it in plan in the middle, and you can see a view from a 3D model we created on the right. And the next slide. This is the brownstone section that you can see. So you can see that there's this kind of semi-private space that extends from the living unit out to this outdoor area that the resident of that unit can use. The ground floor is elevated about 2 feet off of the sidewalk to create also a more comfortable relationship with the sidewalk. And then you can see the stoop there, and then a nice generous sidewalk with an amenity strip to provide that buffer. And I would just point out that, you know, sometimes when the relationship between the interior and the exterior is uncomfortable, you'll see people just keep the shades pulled down altogether, which, you know, we don't want that to happen. We want there to be this really nice, you know, conversation that happens between the inside and the outside. Next slide. And this is a view from the model, you know, in what this is shows the basics. There'll be more planting, and you can imagine people putting furniture out there and using that space from their unit. Next slide. And then this is the commercial office canopy sort of entry. So you can see the canopy overhang, and then the lobby space. And then you can see up above there's an apartment unit. And again, there's that like nice generous sidewalk to allow for more pedestrian traffic, which we're hoping to generate through this this project, and that it will lead to other projects. And then you can also see the amenity strip and then the canopy that overhangs and announces the entry, and then creates the framing edge also for the frontage zone. Next slide. There you can see the canopy, and you can imagine just beyond the canopy, you can see 2 pedestrian benches that are just set off the pedestrian through zone, just enough so people's legs can sit over the edge of the bench and not interfere with the pedestrian through zone. And then that area behind there will be some soft plantings, and the space behind there are exam rooms. And so that's why in that zone we have planting against the building to create a comfortable buffer between the exam rooms and the sidewalk. Next slide. And then here, this shorts shows in section and plan where the exam rooms will be. And you can see where it says 10'3", that's that forecourt condition. That's the type of frontage zone where we'll have soft plantings, some trees and benches just, you know, off of the pedestrian through zone. And that offers a nice buffer so people don't feel exposed to the sidewalk when they're having their examinations done. Next slide. And this shows that condition right there. And then you can see another beyond it, another canopy condition on the corner. Next slide. These show our glazing percentages. We have a couple things going on here. Number one, we're trying to create an architecture that relates to the historicity of the neighborhood, but also is kind of timeless. So we're using brick, we're using a regular spaced openings. We do have full glazing where there are commercial frontages and entries, or the amenity space. Those are the green areas on the very end. The green area in the center where you see them, those are the exam rooms, which is why we have a little bit smaller windows. We don't have full glazing there because we can't have patients exposed to the street. And then the blue zone shows the residential where we have punched opening like sort of windows in a regular placement, and then stoops with really nice doors that'll have lights on the side and, you know, entrance, really nicely defined entrances. And the next slide. Next slide. The other condition is that the HVAC system we're using has vents coming out from the front of the building, which need to have a 4-foot diameter around them. So the window placement has to be far enough for those vents. Next slide. And these show some other facades as well. These show, if you can, you know, in the zoning code, it says between 3 and 8 feet. This shows if we can, you know, consider the whole, you know, facade from the ground up to 12 feet, which is really the first floor of the facade. You can see in the center there the glazing for the commercial space, and that's where we have the 2 glazing conditions, the code in those charts up above and where it says entire first floor. Next slide. And then I just wanted to emphasize that we totally understand that the level or the importance that transparency plays between a ground floor and the sidewalk, but getting that relationship to be balanced so that people don't keep those blinds closed all the time, and really using that that glazing percentage along with the elevation of the first floor, depending on its use, what the use is inside, an appropriate frontage zone, and to create the best possible relationship that we can with the sidewalk. That was our intent in this design. Next slide.
That was the last slide.
There, and it just wanted to mention that for the condition that's on Churchill, there's a phase 2 that plans to extend the brownstone feel and actual like brownstone townhouse units along Churchill. So that will cover the parking lot that is currently there, or that will be there in the first phase. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, great. Thank you for that presentation. Mr. Hawthorne? Khalid? Oh, there
Yes,
you go.
I'm sorry.
I thought you vanished.
I was trying to find the mute button. Yeah, so Greg always does a great job with this presentation, and just the thought that went into this, and actually all these things should be part of the form-based code anyway. And so when we talked to city planning about that, I know that's when you're rewriting code, you cannot get everything in it originally and see what will transpire. But like I said, the features that we have here definitely fit within the spirit of the code. So just wanted to take that in consideration. Also, the fact that we are putting extra space in there, even to improve the transit waiting environment. As you see, there's actually benches underneath our covered area, which people would be able to sit on if the bus stations were were packed there, which that's pretty busy stops right there. And of course, we have the greenery to kind of provide that separation because people, it'll be offices and meeting space behind there. So everything about this project has been intentional, and
Yeah,
hope you guys will approve.
and I'm glad that Khalid brought that up, because I forgot to bring up that we did work with RTA in planning this corner and trying to create a better public transit environment, which requires us to have bigger sidewalks.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you did. I didn't question that. They always want to chime in with bus stops, so I'm pretty sure you guys talked to them. Maurice, is there a city planner here, or are you representing for city planning?
Not that I know of. I guess I'm representing for city planning. First off, I can add that or concur that yes, the staff worked very closely with the applicants here on this project. It was approved by the full planning commission. Oh, I see Kim Scott, so maybe she wants to chime in. I know she wasn't sworn in.
Okay, Ms.
Excuse
Brown,
me.
can you swear her in, please?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Kim Scott, 601 Lakeside Avenue, room 501. Really, just to reiterate what Maurice just stated, is that this has gone through the approval process. It was very enthusiastically welcomed. We know that this is a major intersection on the city's east side, and so this project will likely bring much vibrancy and an urbane form. And so we're really enthusiastically supportive of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a very nice project. All right, I'll open it up to the board for any questions.
Madam Chair, I do have 2 questions, please.
Sure.
The entrance to the medical health clinic, is there an entrance off of 105th where we see all the glass and glazing, or is it only from the rear?
No, the entrance. So if you look at this rendering, can you see where on the left it says streets and places underneath the word and?
Yeah.
So that's the entrance, and that was that canopy section I showed.
Okay.
And you can see, so that canopy bumps out, and then the corner bumps out a little bit, and it creates like this forecourt condition with the benches and the trees in between the two. And then the corner is going to be like a conference room.
Thank you. And the
My
other
pleasure.
question is about development on Churchill, which you described as a later phase. When do you expect that to happen?
I couldn't say a date, but I would say that we have spoken with developers in the CDC that are working right now to get that phase up and running.
Can Mr. Hawthorne speak to that?
And that's where we want this to be a catalyst for this whole area, and we have been speaking to a particular developer, and that's as far as we are at this point in time. But looking forward to getting that project or anything further, push that forward sooner than later.
Okay, Madam Chair, so I have one more question. I'm sorry. The other one is,
Sorry.
as we had this, very involved presentation on the right-of-way widths and setbacks, is it just for this block from Superior to Churchill, or are there intentions to carry it beyond this building?
I think that city planning would speak to that better, but I do know that I've had conversations with city planning, and they have agreed that it might be good to take a second look at the urban form overlay to allow for wider sidewalks. Because if you've ever walked down 105th, there are some places where the sidewalks are just really narrow. So there's opportunity there, and they agree.
Madam Chair, oops, sorry. Are you done, Ms. Brown?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, I just have a quick question to Greg. What accommodations have been made for bicycle parking and cyclists?
I believe that we have bicycle parking that will be planned for the back. So it doesn't show it on this particular floor plan, but there's a bike room that we put in the back of the building.
Excellent. Great. You are so detail oriented when you do your presentation. So I expected that there was something in the plans for that. So I just didn't see it.
Thanks, Alana.
Sure. Madam Chair, if there are no more questions or comments, I'll move to a motion.
Please do.
All right. Given the testimony we've heard today, I really appreciate the before pictures. It certainly emphasizes the improvement to the intersection in the neighborhood in the renderings and the Play Micos. We have support from city planning. Clearly, this has been a project long in the works and has been thoroughly intentional and thought through to every detail, particularly with thought to public transit, which is very important in this area, and to active transit as well. So, and it will be good to see this mix of use coming into the neighborhood. So with all that being said, I think we are, I think we'd like to move to approve this variance.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Bake?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar 22-187 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your time and your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Great project. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
looking
you.
forward to see
Yeah,
this come to
amazing.
fruition.
Thanks,
Me
everyone.
too.
Hopefully it sparks a lot more development.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right, moving on.
All right, next case. So we have calendar number 22-190. This is at 1340 West 105th Street. 1266 Roadmanian LLC proposes to change the use from a two-family dwelling to a three-family dwelling in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the public record in the agenda, of which there are 3. And then just quickly before getting started, I just wanted to inform the appellant and anyone who's called in that I am a neighbor and live down the street from this property. I can maintain objectivity, but if anyone has any issues, just let us know. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, then state your name and your address.
I do. Adam Rosen, attorney on behalf of the appellant 1266 Rodmanian LLC. My address for my office is 5900 Detroit Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio 44102. I believe my client is here on the call as well. Alina?
Hello?
She's
Anyone else gonna
here.
swear?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. I do, Alina Azizian. My home address is 1333 West Roscoe Street, Chicago, Illinois 60657.
Thank you. Anyone else? Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property remains in the same zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1917, a permit was issued to erect a 2-story dwelling. 1940, a permit was issued to erect a garage. There are no variances on file, and in the more recent history, in April of this year, we found that rental registration was issued for the property, stating that the use of the property is as having 2 units. And that's all that I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance and area variances from the 3-family dwelling regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rosen. Are you muted, maybe?
Yep.
Sorry, I lost connection for a second.
Oh, okay. All right,
Can
go
you
ahead.
repeat just the last few seconds of what was said? I apologize.
Oh, no, we just read the legal standards. So then I told you to go ahead and present the case.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the commission. I'm here again, like I said, on behalf of the owner of the property, 1266 Rodmanian LLC. When the members of the LLC, husband and wife, Alina and then Rich Rodman, purchased this home in September of 2020 and went to apply for rental registration for 3 units, they were told that the completed 3 unit, which was already was already constructed when they purchased it, was not properly permitted by the previous owner. And so they reached out to me in order to help make that unit legal, and I assisted with the permit application, which led to the variance request before you today. The owners of the property LLC did not complete renovations that required permitting at the time. They purchased a property that was already fixed up under the impression from the seller that they would have a 3-unit rental property. So that's why we're here today. on behalf of my client, reached out to city planning staff, the planner for the neighborhood, Adam Davenport. I also reached out to council member Jenny Spencer and the CDC Northwest Neighborhoods to inform them of the variance request, to ask for their support, and to take any feedback or comments that they may have on the variance. None of them are here today, as far as I know. All of them were in support. Jenny Spencer, the council member, said that she does not typically attend BZA hearings for single parcel projects, and neither does the CDC, but they're generally supportive of the added density to the neighborhood. In addition, the floor plan and the parking situation is all mapped out here before you. You can see the floor plan. There's also a site plan that was submitted by the LLC that shows the proper forms of ingress and egress and sufficient parking for each of the 3 units at the property.
Yeah, we can see that. So that was my question. So the 3rd floor unit was already in existence, and there is a way for them to get in and out without disrupting the other 2 units, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Maurice, are you representing city planning here?
Yes, Madam Chair. I have not had a chance to speak to Adam Davenport about this project, but I don't see any issues with this. As you know, the City Planning Commission is always looking to increase density, especially in neighborhoods where there is adequate public transportation. This is only a block away from one of the major transit lines, bus lines, as you probably know, on Clinton Avenue. Although the 3rd spot here shown on the site plan is not a legal spot, the fact that there are 2 existing spots in a garage, there is more than ample room in the neighborhood for 1 car to be parked on the street. So we support this variance.
All right, thank you. Board, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard testimony from the appellant's agent, Mr. Rosen, and from city planning. We often see this happening where homes are purchased with a 3rd floor already in use, and the new buyer doesn't realize that it isn't already legal. So this is not unusual, and this is in a neighborhood where we are looking to add density, and we have approval, support from city planning, and though we don't have any letters of support, we understand that the councilperson and the CDC also are in support of this. So with all that being said, I move that we go ahead and approve for variance 22-190.
Thank you. And before I ask for a second, I just realized I didn't ask the homeowner if she wanted to add anything. So Mrs. Ezian, did you want to say anything else, or are you okay?
I'm good. I think Adam covered everything on the site plan and the property and the history.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I apologize for that. Okay, can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Bates,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar number 22-190 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Moving on.
All right, calendar number 22-160. This is at 1127 Parkwood Avenue. Jermaine Jenkins proposes to establish use as residential facility for 5 occupants in a B1 2-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the public record and the agenda, of which there are 2. And this case was first postponed on October 3rd at the request of the Development Corporation to allow time for community review. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please.
Yes, I do. My name is Farron White, and my address is 1127 Parkwood Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. Um, and yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anyone else for this case? Mr. Hawthorne, are you testifying on this case? Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in, excuse me, 1908, a permit was issued to erect a dwelling. And in 1911, a permit was issued to erect a garage. We do have one variance application made in earlier this year in calendar number 22-89. That case was dismissed, however, due to no show from the appellant. And Madam Chair, I believe that's all that we have that's relevant.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance and an area variance from the minimum distance regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
All right, Ms. White. So what happened with the meeting with the community?
Well, I had the pleasure with meeting with Mr. Hawthorne. He came by the property and he did a extensive walkthrough to pretty much make sure that the foundation of the house was up to code and something that he could consider safe. That was his main concern as far as safety and accessibility for the residents that'll be living there. And I pretty much gave him all the information that he was requesting, and he did approve it. I'm not sure if he reached out to you or not. He did instruct me that he would email the board commission as far as his approval. And I thought he was going to be on the call this evening, but I think he must have got off.
Yeah, he's been on with us all morning and then he disappeared. But, Liz, did you get any correspondence from Famicos at all?
I am not seeing it right off the bat. I don't have it in the file, and I'm double checking my email right now. I just see that I sent links.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, Maurice?
Madam Chair, if Mr. Hawthorne has in fact, we're going to get some documentation and find that email or have Mr. Hawthorne send it to us before anything is ratified. As you know, we always look for the councilman and the CDC to approve these when there's such an oversaturation. There are 5 other residential facilities within 1,000 feet, but if the councilman and the CDC are in favor, we will not object.
All right, thank you. Board, any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Can you remind us the target population and age for the persons who will be living here?
Yes, my targeted demographic age range is going to be from the 45 and 60. And my targeted demographic, I will be house residents who are aged, or not necessarily aged, but forced out of nursing home facilities because they no longer meet the requirement. And unfortunately, these is happening all over the greater area of Cleveland. a lot of these patients don't really have housing anywhere to go, whether if that be the fund not there or if they do not have family or, you know, they're being pushed out on the streets and living in not so much good. So that's where I step in at to provide housing for these residents.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I do see Ms. Schmidt with her hand raised. I'm not sure if she's associated with Famicos.
Hi, this is Ava Schmidt from Famicos. Trying to
Was
swear.
not sworn in.
You need to be sworn in, Ms. Schmidt, so hold on one sec.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. I do. State your name and your address.
I do. Ava Schmidt, Famicos Foundation, 1325 Ansel Road. Apologize for not swearing in. Originally, Khalid was going to speak to this, but he had something come up. But I was able to chat with him, and he just wants to confirm that he did meet with the appellant and is satisfied with the conditions of the property and also the proposed operations of the property. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Schmidt. That figures out the great mystery we were wondering about whether Famicos approved it or not. So we appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks.
May I ask one more question, ma'am? Ms. White, do you own the property or will you be renting it? Who will be responsible for the upkeep of the actual home?
Yes, I do not own the property currently. I am renting from Drain Jenkins. So the name is on the documentation as far as who is applying for this variance. He is a friend of mine and he has full support. And as far as the upkeeping goes, for who's responsible, it will be myself.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, board?
Madam Chair, quick question to Ms. White. In looking at the photographs here, it looks like both the sidewalk and the driveway are in rather disrepair. Do you have any plans for paving the driveway and cleaning up the sidewalk so that passage is safe for both?
I do. I actually have a big plan on fixing that up as well. I actually am in communication right now with a concrete company that is giving me a quote. Been in a little back and forth about price right now, but we're coming to an agreement. So yes.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
And this may be a question for Ms. Kukla, but do we need a copy of the agreement between Ms. White and the owner of the property as a condition of the variance?
We never asked for that before.
Madam Chair, we do have the authorization letter, the standard authorization letter that has been
Okay.
notarized that gave the appellant authorization.
Okay. Great.
Also, Madam Chair, I do have a letter from the councilman's aide that Councilman Conwell is supportive of the project.
Thank you. Any further questions, board?
Hearing none, I'll move forward with the motion, Madam Chair. We have support from city planning and the CDC and the councilperson. So despite the saturation of group homes in this area, everyone seems satisfied that this will serve the demographics needs for the clients that Ms. White hopes to house. And she has stated that she's going to take care of the upkeep, which includes the walk and the driveway. And so with that, I move that we go ahead and support this variance.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Member Brown, I second.
Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Babe?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar number 22-160 is granted. It'll be ratified next Monday, and then we will send the appellant the letter.
Thank you so much I'm pretty much ecstatic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Good luck
you.
to you.
Welcome.
Good luck.
luck.
Thank you. You have a good day.
All right, moving on.
We have calendar number 22-155. This is at 17617 Sedalia Avenue. Cassie Marie Leighton Callahan, owner, proposes to erect approximately 15 linear feet of 5-foot 6-inch tall wood fence and a gate in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the public record and the agenda, of which there is one. And this case was reinstated from September 19th. The appellant missed the hearing due to technical difficulties. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Cassie Marie Leighton Callahan, 17617 Sedalia Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44135.
Anyone else for this case? Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1950, a permit was issued to erect this one-family frame dwelling, as well as a private frame garage. There are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history. Madam Chair, I do have an opposition letter also from a neighbor, if you'd like me to read that now.
We'll wait. I just have a question. Is this fence already up, or is this like going to be an extension of what's already here?
It is already up.
Okay. That's all I need to know right now. So hold on. All right, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the fencing regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
All right. Okay, Ms. Callahan, go ahead. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, when I did a fence extension and gate in order to enclose my RV in the back. The housing inspector, Mr. Davis, told me that I just needed, he told me what the guidelines were. He gave me the printout for it for couldn't be over 6 feet, and that I had to call before I dug to make sure I didn't hit any gas lines or anything like that. He never actually mentioned the permit. So I was just ignorant to the point of fact that I needed the permit. And the neighbors, Tina and George, that owned the house before Mr. Islam bought it, I guess that they were under the impression that their fence encroached on my property, but I didn't mind. But then when I wanted to do the extension, they said, well, you go ahead and take the 18 inches back over on this side, and that's fine. So that's where I got permission from Mr. Islam to, if it bothered him, because I'll turn my camera around, but you'll see that he laid concrete all the way up to the fence now. So, I mean, it's pretty much permanent thing, and he's fine with it. Like, see right here. Yeah, he did concrete all the way over to the fence, and the actual fence, like, I mean, this is the differential part, is like right there. And the pole that I originally had, because it was a chain link when I bought the house, it was just a chain link fence and gate, which I did away with it, and I put this fencing here. So like right here, you'll see, like there's the pole that was there for the gate that I had. And then I just extended this and put the gate up. And the gate is behind my window there and doesn't obstruct anything, which Mr. Davis said that was important as well. And I guess I really just need the permit approved for the structure. And if you find anything wrong with it, just let me know and I'll rectify it.
Okay, Ms. Callahan, I'm a little confused by your testimony. So are you saying that Any part of your fence is on someone else's property?
Well, I don't know if that's what they were saying with the zoning when when I was applying for the fencing. They were like, well, how many inches is this and how many inches is that? And I said, well, I don't know. When I looked at my survey, the actual fence of my neighbors that was here when I bought my house was on, like, I only have, from like my backyard, I only have like 12 inches over from my driveway to that side. And I was supposed to have 36 or 30, 20, 26 or 30 inches from my driveway. The side of my driveway is supposed to be my property line, something like that. And so when I did the extension, George and Tina said, well, you could just come on over a little bit more so you have a little bit more space to, you know, walk alongside the RV or whatever, or move stuff. And I was like, okay, so that's where I put the fence up. It was like a couple, like maybe 6 inches over. And that's why I got a letter from Mr. Islam to state that, you know, he didn't mind where I put the fence extension.
Liz, do we have like a verified survey somewhere on record?
Madam
about
Chair, I
where
don't
this
have
fence
that.
is exactly?
Yeah, I don't have anything like that in my file. However, there was nothing written up about the property line issue that we can see on the notice of nonconformance.
Okay.
The issue that the appellant is looking at is the fence needs to be the same distance as its height away from the neighboring
Right.
house.
Right. I was just getting a little confused by her explanation. I wanted to make sure that we weren't granting anything on someone else's property.
Madam Chair, we can also make that note in the, I'm sorry to interrupt. We
no,
can
go
make
ahead.
that note, we can make that note in the resolution that we are not approving the fence to be erected onto anybody else's property. So
Okay.
as you know, this is a private matter. If they have a property line dispute, that's a private matter that has to be worked out between appellants
Correct.
and property owners. Yes.
Correct. Okay. All right. I think I got most of my questions answered. Maurice?
Madam Chair, Maurice Rowland, City Planning. So the fence is about 2 foot short of where it needs, as you know, 2 foot. It needs to be 2 foot further from the neighboring house. With the concrete being poured there and seeing it now that it's up, I do think that there's ample room for the neighbors to access their house and potentially have emergency egress out of the house in case of a fire or what have you. I guess I'm more concerned about the 2 RVs that are parked permanently at this house and the allegations that there are actually people living in the RVs, but that is not part of this case today.
Correct. Thank you. Any questions, board? Oh, did you have anything else, Maurice?
I was just going to say I forwarded those concerns to the councilman.
Okay. All right. Any questions, board?
The appellant is trying to raise her hand.
Oh, Ms. Callahan, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Maurice, that concern regarding the RVs is being addressed with Mr. Davis and my housing court specialist, Mr. I can't even think of his last name right now. I do apologize. However, the one RV is under restoration. There is no residential living within either of them.
Okay,
Just
thank
to
you.
affirm that.
Okay, board, any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, since there are no further comments or questions, I'll move forward with a motion based on the input from Mr. Mullins with City Planning and the photograph showing that the adjacent neighbor has poured concrete along the side of his house, so that that pretty much sets where the fence is going to go. I move that we go ahead and approve the variance for calendar number 22-155.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Member Brown, I second.
Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Faith,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
22-155 is granted. It'll be ratified next Monday, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. We have another case? I thought we were done.
One more.
One more. All right, go ahead.
No.
Our last case is calendar number 22-162. This is at 4612 Clinton Avenue. Mark and Janet Wells propose to erect a 2-story frame single-family residence with an attached garage in a B1 two-family residential district. The owners appeal for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the public record and the agenda, of which there are 4. And this case was reinstated from September 26, 2022, due to the appellant missing the hearing due to a family emergency. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Okay, for our last case, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Mark Wells, the owner of the property at 4612 Clinton Avenue and future resident.
Anyone else?
I do. Anthony Cusia, the builder. 12025 Schreiber Road, Valley View 44125.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned multifamily in 1929. 1985, it was changed to two-family residential. We found in our Records Administration Office that in 1970, a permit was issued to convert the single-family to two-family on sites. There are no variances on file. And then in the more recent history, we didn't find when the structure was demolished, but we did find in 2005, a vacant lot cleanup fee was assessed to the property. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the front yard setback, rear yard footage, and side yard encroachment regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Who will be the spokesperson for this case?
I guess
Madam Chair,
I will be. So we have the topographic survey.
Who's speaking?
I'm sorry, Tony Cusia.
Okay, go ahead.
So we
Madam Chair,
show.
and Mr. Cusia, this is Maurice Rollins from City Planning. I just wanted to chime in here real quick before you go off, because I modified your document here to explain to the board that we do believe that variance number 1 for the front yard setback variance can be granted because the applicant does meet the exception where you can draw a diagonal line 150 feet from the property. So that is taken care of. I didn't want him to, I had not shared this diagram with him, so I didn't want him to not understand what was going on here. This neighborhood, I might also point out that this is one of the very old neighborhoods in the city where many of the homes were built before the zoning code, and the setbacks are all over the place on this street,
yes.
which makes it really difficult when constructing a new home to adhere to that. Also, the spirit of this is definitely being met here because the new house is between the setbacks from the houses on the left and the right. One is further closer to the street, and one is a little bit further back. So they're kind of just in the middle. So that portion of the variances of the 3-4 variances is met. Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to get that out of the way first.
Thank
Oh, no,
you.
that's a very important interruption. Thank you, Maurice.
Yeah, I know how you feel about those.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Kusia.
Okay, well, thank you, because that was the first one and there's no, we meet that criteria. The second one is the rear yard setback. So we're seeking the 4.2 feet variance to Wheat Court.
So your garage entrance be from the court?
That's correct. That's the only way to get into the home is from the rear
Yeah.
yard.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
The third item. Hold on a second.
Madam Chairman, sorry, this is the homeowner. Were you looking for further clarification on the number 2?
Oh, no. I just
Okay,
was double
perfect.
checking
Thank
that.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mark, can you go number 3, please? You
I'm
mind?
sorry.
I've been working here and I cannot find your the letter.
Oh, number 3 is the window well
Okay.
for
Great.
encroachment on the side yard.
I'm sorry. Thank you. So the third item is the egress window well on which is along the western side of the home, which falls in the 5-foot side yard setback for the topographic, 6-foot side yard setback on the topographic survey. Actually, we're showing 6.05 feet on that west wall, which will be the left side of the home. Can you guys see my cursor? You probably can't.
No, Maurice has control of the screen. You don't.
Yeah, no, we can't see your cursor. I don't see where the window well is actually on this drawing, but
It would be essentially where you see the 42.5 foot call out on the west side of the property or the home. The egress window would be about in that location.
It's and to even be a little further detail, if you go to the basement floor plan, it's approximately which is on.
I don't have the basement. I only have first floor and second floor.
Oh, so Rodney didn't give you that.
Where does it fall? Where does it fall in relation to the first floor?
It falls under
the bathroom.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And what's the projection of the window well into the side yard?
3 feet.
3 feet. Okay. And your measurement was 6 what? 6'6"?
6.05 feet.
Okay, 6.0. And you're 3 feet for the projection?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add?
Not at this time. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mm-hmm. Maurice, considering you did the front yard setback multiplication, I'm assuming where city planning is coming, but just for the record.
Yeah, Madam Chair. Also, I wanted to point out, I think this number 4 is an error. I think this went to Landmarks Commission and not the City Planning Commission.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Yeah, okay.
That's
So
correct.
it was approved by the Landmarks Commission as well. As far as the window well, because there's a 6-foot side yard, there's still, and the window well is only 3 feet, there still remains 3 foot of clear space on the side yard, which we think is adequate. And as far as the rear yard, we feel that the 24 feet is more than adequate for the rear yard. So we would recommend approval on all of the variances.
Great, thank you. Any questions, board?
Hearing none, I'll move to a motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I was in agreement with city planning that the 3 feet left on the side yard after the window well
In your room.
projection would work as well. We know that these older neighborhoods are tight anyway. And before, many constructed before planning was, or zoning was in place. So we've taken number 1 off the agenda. We have number 2, number 3, number 4. They were already approved by landmarks. So we're good on that. So we have number 2 and 3. And with that, I move that we go ahead and approve those.
Madam Chair, just one quick point there. Number 1 actually is needed. It meets the exception that the board can grant that
They can
variance.
grant it, yes.
Okay,
So you
great.
do need to grant that variance, yes.
Okay.
Just wanted to
Well,
clarify.
Thank you, Maurice. So we'll include 1, 2, and 3. And I move that we approve all 3.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Olzer,
Yes.
Ms. Bates,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar number 22-162 is granted. It'll be ratified next Monday, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, board, old business.
1, 2, and 3
Old business 1, 2, and 3 without objection.
without objection.
All right. And nothing else. That's great. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.
You
Thank
too.
you, everyone.
You too, thank you.